In Turkey concluded the third Antalya diplomatic forum, which was attended by almost 5,000 representatives from some 148 countries. In Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif was voted as Prime Minister for a second term. And in Palestine, 90 civilians were killed in 9 massacres perpetrated by the Israeli occupation forces over the last 24 hours in the Gaza Strip, bringing the death toll to 30,410. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from TeleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Venezuela on Sunday, music and color marked the first day of registration in the Great Viva Venezuela mission, a program aimed at promoting all art forms nationwide. This revolutionary plan foresees 8 main areas with a 30-point action and was simultaneously launched with ceremonies at all Bolivar squares of 103 municipalities in the country. Since early in the morning, artists responded to the call of the mission, which has also been defined as a shield of protection against colonizing threats. Culture Minister Ernesto Villegas described Saturday's event as a cultural happening of great magnitude and dynamism by those who devote their lives to art.
We are motivated. We are happy for this mission that, in my opinion, is very well structured in its 8 fields, and I believe it will bring about a great recovery in terms of cultural work and research.
In Argentina, recent studies show a 21.3% drop in real wages between November 2023 and January of this year. According to a study by the Research and Training Center, losses were greater for public sector wages at almost 25%, while they were 19.3% for the private sector. The reduction values are equivalent to less than a half of what they were in November 2015. According to experts, this situation is a clear result of the neoliberal policies of the current government, as happened as well at the beginning of the government of Mauricio Macri. Meanwhile, the figure highlighted the importance of considering the loss of purchasing capacity of people with the lowest wages. In El Salvador on Sunday, over 5 million registered voters are taking part in municipal and parliamentary elections. The Supreme Electoral Tribunal said that 1,595 voting centers were set up for citizens to choose 40 mayors, along with municipal council members and 20 national deputies to the Central American Parliament. On this election day, there were some incidents that delayed the opening of some polling stations, and some streets had to be blocked for security reasons. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines announced an amnesty measure coming into effect for those who turn in weapons and ammunition illegally circulating in the territory. Authorities will hold the initiative until May 31st as part of their campaign against crime and violence in the territory. According to this resolution, those in possession of unlicensed weapons may go to the police, religious centers, or attorneys in order to hand over war materials to the authorities. The legislation also establishes that citizens who return these weapons will not be sanctioned, nor will investigations be opened against them. With initiative, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines plans to neutralize the recent increase in crimes and murders caused by firearms in the country. In Haiti, hundreds of prisoners escaped on Saturday night and early Sunday morning from the national prison in Port-au-Prince after gangs took control of the detention center. Jimmy Cherisier, aka Baby Q, one of the leaders of the violent gangs, unleashed a war in the capital aiming to overthrow the government. After assaulting the police barrier, the armed gangs took control of the prison, from where strong bursts of fire were being heard. The Colombian mercenaries accused by the magnacide of Jovenel Moise, held in that prison, made a desperate call at the time of the tape. The rector's office of Haiti's State University condemned an attack against one of its campuses carried out by an armed group operating in Port-au-Prince, the country's capital. The board reported that the violent event occurred against the Agronomy and Veterinary College, where a student was wounded by a gunshot on Thursday. The rector's office of the university denounced the plunderings in the student residence and other areas of the college. Police authorities confirmed that the criminals stole valuable items such as solar panels, computers, mattresses, and other essential equipment from the institution. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and more. Other stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Turkey, the third Antalya Diplomacy Forum, which was attended by almost 5,000 representatives from 148 countries, concluded. The third edition of the annual event was held under the theme highlighting diplomacy in times of crisis. During the event, more than 20 heads of state and government from some 100 countries participated in meetings and diplomatic exchanges. In this sense, topics such as global crisis, climate change, immigration, anti-Islamism, trade wars, and artificial intelligence were discussed. The talks were attended by students, academics, non-governmental organizations, and representatives of the business world. The Antalya Diplomacy Forum in Turkey dedicated a session to climate change. Foreign ministers from Gambia and Madagascar and the Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister discussed the challenges faced by humanity. The Foreign Minister from Africa continent then told TeleSUR what the Global South can do.
How will future generations remember us? That was the topic of the session. Moderator Andrea Hankia recalled that the United Nations Secretary General already used the expression climate boiling. Madagascar's Foreign Minister Rafarababiratka Rasara warned that her country hosts 5% of global biodiversity. She explained that Madagascar had adopted the climate plan in 2021, but still faced the problem of deforestation. According to Rasara, her country was seeking to achieve two goals at once, adapting to climate change and overcoming poverty. The minister called for strengthening cooperation in financial terms, as well as in sharing technology and knowledge.
South-South cooperation is really critical nowadays, especially because we are facing the same issues and the same problems, the same challenges. So we need to address these issues with a very pragmatic approach. We need more partnership and solid partnerships.
According to Turkish Deputy Foreign Minister Mehmet Kemal Bosey, sharing new technologies constitutes a new form of colonialism. Bosey announced that the Turkish parliament was preparing a law to adapt to climate change. Colombian Foreign Minister Mamadou Tangara criticized international climate conferences for only making promises. "I no longer participate in them," said the foreign minister, who also criticized colonialism for having focused agriculture of his country only on exports. "We will develop our own policies, give priority to agriculture, and become self-sufficient," said the Gambian politician.
We need to speak one language, be united in our desire and objective to confront the big players, to make them understand that this is not an issue of one country, it's a global challenge, and climate change does not know borders, that don't need a passport to affect all of us. So we have to fight to pull our...
Yunus Soner, TeleSUR, Foro de Diplomacia, Antalya, Türkiye.
In Portugal, early voting has begun for this year's general elections. Portuguese voters who will not be able to go to the polls on that day started casting their ballots in advance on Sunday, 1 week ahead of parliamentary elections scheduled for March 10. It is estimated that over 200,000 voters have decided for advance voting. President Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa, who exercised his vote also on Sunday, encouraged the Portuguese people to fight abstentionism, which could be high on this election. Over 10 million registered Portuguese voters will be choosing 230 deputies for the Assembly of the Republic, including the next head of government. In South Korea, thousands of senior doctors marched on Sunday in the country's capital, Seoul, in support of their fellow trainees who are on strike against the government policies. The march is in response to the latest threat from the executive, which has set a deadline for the strike to end, or else they will face severe sanctions. For almost 2 weeks, medical doctors have been protesting against the government plan to drastically increase the number of students enrolled at universities. They say the measure will not necessarily solve the deficit of doctors, whereas it may be in detriment of the quality of the training they would receive. The government said that as of this Monday, it could begin to suspend licenses to all 9,000 striking doctors.
The shortage of medical personnel can be solved by changing current policies rather than by increasing the number of doctors. To put it simply, 5 years ago, there was a shortage of 3,000 doctors a year, a total of 15,000 doctors. At that time, Korea's population was larger and there were many more pediatric patients. This phenomenon did not exist even 5 years ago, when the birth rate was twice as high. So the problem is policy, not the number of doctors, but the government is misleading the public by saying that this phenomenon is due to a shortage of doctors and is putting doctors in a negative light.
On Sunday in Pakistan, Shehbaz Sharif was voted as Prime Minister for a second term. He ran as head of a shaky coalition that overshadowed followers of jailed opposition leader Imran Khan. Khan's party candidates secured more seats than any other party, but not enough to form a government. Sharif, 72, first served as Prime Minister in 2022, heading a strikingly similar alliance which hosted Imran Khan, a former cricket star. Sharif got 201 votes by newly sworn-in lawmakers in Pakistan's National Assembly over 3 weeks after widely disputed and allegedly rigged national elections. The Sharif family's Pakistan Muslim League Nawaz Party allied with their historic rivals, as well several smaller to keep Khan's candidates out. In return, the Pakistan People Party, or PPP, a dynastic party ruled by the family of slain former Premier Benazir Bhutto, has been promised the office of President for Bhutto's widower, Asif al-Sadari. On Sunday, on the eve of China's Communist Party annual meeting in Beijing, a spokesman of China's Political Advisory Council said the economy, especially youth employment, was of great concern to party delegates. Thousands of delegates from across the country will convene in Beijing on Monday for the start of the party's yearly conclave, known as the Two Sessions. The meetings come as the world's second-largest economy battles a range of challenges, from a protracted property crisis to flagging domestic consumption and persistently high youth unemployment, which officially stood at around 15% at the end of 2023. China reported an economic growth of 5.2% last year, one of its slowest rates in decades.
The Communist Party of China's Central Committee and the State Council have given priority to promoting employment in economic and social development and have made a series of specific arrangements. Various localities and government departments have taken measures to create a synergy in stabilizing and expanding employment.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on the screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Palestine, 90 civilians were killed in 9 massacres perpetrated by the Israeli occupation forces over the last 24 hours in the Gaza Strip, bringing the death toll to 30,410. According to local health authorities, the majority of the victims are innocent civilians. In addition to the 90 fatalities, 177 other Palestinians were injured by Israeli artillery, aerial strikes, or sniper fire over the last 24 hours, while the number of injured documented since the beginning of the aggression have climbed to 71,700. Some victims remain under the rubble and in the streets as the occupation forces continue to prevent the arrival of ambulance and rescue teams to many locations, especially in the northern region. On Sunday evening, medical sources in Gaza said Israeli occupation forces committed a new massacre against Palestinian citizens at the Kuwait roundabout. Reportedly, occupation forces opened fire on civilians at the Kuwait roundabout while they were waiting for aid trucks loaded with flour, killing and injuring dozens. They said the Israeli army is carrying out systematic genocide crimes targeting hungry people in northern Gaza. Earlier on Sunday, occupation warplanes bombed a small truck carrying humanitarian aid in Deir al-Balah in the central Gaza Strip, killing 8 people and wounding several others. A similar incident occurred last Thursday near the Nabulsi roundabout, northwest of Gaza City, where 117 people died and hundreds were injured. It's been 149 days of war and the humanitarian situation in Gaza is bordering famine. The Palestinian Prisoners Society confirmed on Sunday that Israeli occupation forces carried out a series of arrests across the West Bank over the last few hours, detaining at least 12 Palestinians, including several children and former prisoners. The society reported that the arrests were concentrated in the governorates of Bethlehem, Nablus, and Ramallah. The arrests were accompanied by widespread incursions, harassment, and brutal assaults, including severe beating by the Israeli occupation soldiers, the group added. It pointed out that the total number of Palestinians arrested since October 7th of the last year has risen to over 7,340. This figure includes individuals arrested from their homes at military checkpoints, those who surrendered under pressure, and those taken as hostages. Pope Francis called on the nations of the world to promote peace negotiations and demand a stop to the Israeli war against Gaza. The Supreme Pontiff warned that a better world cannot be built through war, nor can peace be achieved, so he called for global disarmament to avoid the suffering of innocent people. The religious leaders said it is a moral duty to hand over arms and decrease funding for military programs, as hundreds are affected by conflicts worldwide. Pope Francis insisted on world leaders to promote peace negotiations in Palestine, the exchange of prisoners, and the arrival of humanitarian aid to those most affected by the Israeli siege.
Stop. Encourage the continuation of negotiations for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and throughout the region, so that the hostages may be freed immediately and return to their anxiously waiting loved ones, and the civilian population can have safe access to urgently needed humanitarian aid.
In Nigeria, the 7th summit of the Gas Exporting Countries Forum concluded on Saturday with the reaffirmation of the member states' absolute sovereign rights over their gas resources. The Algiers Declaration endorsed at the summit condemned unilateral economic restrictions without prior approval of the United Nations Security Council and any extraterritorial application of national laws and regulations against the member countries. The declaration also acknowledged the risks and challenges to the natural gas market arising from the geopolitical and economic situations and stressed the need for sustainable investments and the integrity of critical natural gas infrastructure. The forum is formed of 12 permanent and 7 observer members as of February, and collectively holds about 70% of confirmed global gas reserves.
Member countries reiterate their condemnation of all unilateral economic restrictions undertaken without the prior approval of the United Nations Security Council, and any extraterritorial application of national laws and regulations against GECF member countries.
We need to protect all the world's energy infrastructures because they are so important. There are cross-border infrastructures, which we mentioned in the Algerian Declaration, and this is the first time we want to send out a strong message to protect energy facilities.
Burkina Faso Prosecutor's Office launched investigations into the killing of 170 people in a series of attacks in the department of Tio at the end of February. According to a statement issued by the Public Prosecutor's Office, it is still unknown who was responsible for the attacks occurred on February 25th in the villages of Komsilga, Nodin and Soro, located in the departments of Tio, as well as the number of people injured or material damage caused by these actions. In this respect, the document stated that its judicial police services had been instructed to open an investigation to clarify these facts. According to various reports, suspicions fall on terrorists who have frequently attacked remote communities and security forces, especially in the northern region. We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.